So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming along. Got a really great turnout today. So just like letting you guys know, this is being recorded, and so I'm here to welcome Beam, who are one of our newer organisations to join ReferKent. They are a organisation that offer, I'll let them go more in depth about it, but they're an organisation that offer wraparound supports for those who are homeless at the moment, and they offer that sustainable support. But they are on ReferKent, which is a system that offers referrals for people who are needing a bit more than just signposting. So they allow organisations to go from organisations refer from organisation to another without having to worry about a person repeating their story again and again. But I will go a bit more into what you guys can do to join ReferKent in a little while, but I will hand over to Kat, you can feel free to share your screen. I'll stop sharing mine.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll just share now. Thank you very much.
No worries at all.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been to a few of these myself and they're always really good, so I'm actually a little nervous today, which is always nice. It means that good to be nervous, it's major care. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I am Kat from Beam, and today's session, I don't think I'll be speaking for 60 minutes, just to reassure you, we have the time to use. I think the presentation itself will take about 25, and then hopefully lots of time at the end for questions. But we're going to use the time today to go through how Beam works, what we've been doing in Maidstone so far, because we've been working in the area since October, and how you guys can start referring into Beam. And yeah, hopefully we'll leave the session today with everyone having a really good understanding of what Beam might be able to offer your service users, how to explain Beam to a potential service user, and yeah, get as many referrals as possible, really. We're really looking to accelerate the support we're providing in the area, so any referral helps. So yeah, the key aim for today is if you've got anybody in your books that you think this could be useful for, get them referred so that we can step in and start to provide that support. I've kind of said my name already, so I'm Kat. I'm a Senior Government and Delivery Manager here at Beam. I've been at Beam for just under a year now. My title basically just means I look after local authority accounts. So I've got about 14 different local authorities I'm working with. Majority are in London, but that's just me. Beam's all the way across the UK now, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. But Kent's got a special place in my heart because I grew up in Folkestone, so having the Maidstone account I'm holding on to with both hands. So yeah, that's some context as to why I'm here today. And in terms of my involvement with the project, I kind of run things strategically. So if you've got any questions about like the ins and outs of how it all works, feel free to ask. But I've also brought along Tristan from Beam to speak today, just to introduce himself. He's actually your dedicated caseworker for the area. So Tristan, I don't know if you want to say a quick hello.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kat. Yeah, so I'm Tristan. I've been working with Beam for just over 2 years now. So I work predominantly in like the southeast of England, so a lot of contracts like Maidstone, and yeah, I basically support people both into like stable jobs, but also into like getting ready to start looking for like houses and getting into that kind of journey of like how to find a property themselves. So yeah, that's where I kind of fit into this journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Tristan. And if you make a referral into Beam, Tristan will be the person that works with your referrals to get them assessed, understand their needs, and then yeah, he does an amazing job. He's one of the Beam OGs at helping people into work as well. So it's really fantastic to have him on board with the account. Lovely. So just to give you a bit of insight into how Beam actually works, we are a service of two halves, essentially. We are a people and technology based service, and we work predominantly with people who are either experiencing homelessness, who are at risk of homelessness, or who have been homeless in the last 12 months. But we've also started branching into refugee support. We're in a lot of Afghan hotels now as well, Afghan bridging hotels. We're in more hotels than any other organisation in the country. And we've been growing and growing. I've got a map to show you in a second, but we're in our sort of 5th year now, and things are really starting to kind of take off in terms of our coverage, which is fantastic because the more places we're working in, the more people we can support. Our service works in 2 ways. So there's the sort of mentorship care that Tristan and his colleagues will provide to people, where every referral made gets a dedicated one-to-one caseworker who will help them through every phase of their journey with Beam, whether they're looking for a job, whether they're looking to get into the private rented sector, or a lot of time both. And we will help them with everything they need, from looking for work, getting ready to apply for jobs, writing CVs, cover letters, just general kind of empowerment support as well, building people's confidence. Or on the home side, our caseworkers can help with landlord negotiations, advocating for people with landlords if that landlord's a little bit anxious about supporting somebody on universal credit, for example, writing applications for housing, and then ongoing support as well to give them the best chance possible to settle into their new home. And then there's also the funding side of our service as well. So Beam is a charitable enterprise. So we raise money through our monthly and direct supporters, which basically builds up a pot so we can use to fund people's campaigns to help them into this new independence. So alongside the support they'll get from their caseworker, they'll also get access to funding to remove any financial barriers which might be in their way. We'll tap into this in a bit more detail, but it, for example, is often things like a laptop, a mobile phone, travel costs, childcare for those people looking to get into work, or for home move-ons, it's very regularly first month's rent, deposit, a moving van, and some furniture contingency as well. So it's a tale of two halves, really. They get that ongoing kind of hand-holding support from their caseworker to get them really ready to access that independence, and then they get the more practical support from funding as well, to really give them everything they need to take that next step. So we are working, as I say, all over the country. We are just in Scotland now for the first time, which is really exciting. We've got a couple of Welsh accounts now too, so we're growing, but we are in plenty of organisations and areas outside of London. I always like to really focus on this because I think in the past, Beam's had a bit of a reputation as being a London-based company. That's where our office is, but we're in a huge amount of local authorities now countrywide, and actually in Kent, you guys are making up 10% of our overall UK coverage. It's one of our fastest growing counties, so we're putting a lot of kind of care and attention into our Kentish partnerships right now. We are in Maidstone, Ashford. Yeah, we've got a couple of other accounts on the go, and we have a really strong Afghan resettlement partnership in Ashford as well, which is focusing on helping people who are living in the Bridging Hotel there too. So we're building out our understanding of your area. I'm always looking for more insights too. So if anyone's got any advice and guidance from us on the state of homelessness in the county, please feel free to send those insights my way, while we kind of learn and develop our understanding of how we can best support. So thinking of Beam more broadly, to date, we've helped over 1,650 people. We kind of say lives changed to date, but I really want to make it clear that that's done on the backs of the strength and the character of the amazing people that we work with. That's completely down to how hard our service users work to change their own lives. And we're just there to help kind of facilitate that move and to help them take that next step. We've helped over 1,200 people to access jobs, and over 450 people have been supported into homes. Really important to note that Beam only helps with private rented move on. So all of those individuals have moved into a privately rented tenancy, which we have vetted and make sure that they can sustain, done all the compliance checks, and yeah, those move ons are really meaningful, and sustainment is very important to us. So whether somebody has moved into a new job or a new home, we'll be keeping in contact with them to make sure that they're able to stay for as long as possible and to get the most out of that experience. So far, we've raised nearly £4.5 million in donations. The majority of those come from our monthly supporters, but we do also get quite a lot of direct donations to people's campaign pages. So essentially, we're growing our base of support, and that money is split equally across anybody who joins Beam and gets a campaign page. There's no sense of competition. Every single person will get the money they need to raise because it's already in a pre-existing pot, as it were. So we know exactly how much we have available, and then we'll crowdfund that money back. So I often get an objection about Beam that there's a sense maybe is there competition between the people we're supporting. Absolutely not. Our whole business model is kind of set up to avoid that. If you want any more information about Beam, or you are sat with somebody, a resident maybe who you think would be good for the service, but they have questions, I'd really recommend taking a look at our new impact page. I've linked to this in the deck, but essentially it shows you the breakdown of all the people that we've supported, exactly how we've helped them, if we've helped them into jobs, what kind of roles we've supported them into, what kind of people and demographics and groups you've worked with, families. It's all in there in one place for you. So I'll link this round afterwards, but definitely have an explore, and it will probably give you a better breakdown really about impact than I've done on a whistle stop tour, so useful for you to use. So bringing it kind of down to be more focused on exactly how Beam is working in Maidstone. As I say, we've been in Maidstone now since October, and we were brought in by the council to help them predominantly maintain their low rates of street home. I've been down to Maidstone Borough Council many times now, and I'm always just absolutely struck and impressed by the ability to balance the casework they have to do alongside the day-to-day council management. Because for those of you who don't know, the housing association housing officers are right in the middle of their temporary accommodation, so the council there are having to balance being super reactive alongside the day-to-day of the council itself. So it's a council that I've been really impressed by. But it's very clear when you're there that, you know, reducing the number of people entering temporary accommodation is a real top priority. So that's a big reason that Beam has been brought in to help. And in Maidstone, we can work with anybody who is at risk of or experiencing homelessness, or who has been homeless in the last 12 months as well. And we can help with anybody who is looking for either a new job or a new home. So if you're working with somebody who just wants the employment support, that's absolutely fine. But we can also do the full journey, and we can also do both as well. We have space to support 50 people to join Beam from Maidstone before the end of the contract, but that doesn't mean we can only accept 50 referrals. As we know, it's an area of which kind of attrition can be slightly high, so we're looking for as many referrals as possible. It's just to give you some context as to how many people we can support right now. And really, we've been brought in to help the council to tackle point 3 of their 2021-2026 housing strategy, but that's to prevent homelessness and enable vulnerable people to access appropriate housing and support. So you can see how we're really trying to embed ourselves in what the council is trying to achieve, and we're just there as an extra pair of hands. We're kind of a third party who's really hoping to become kind of integral to the support systems that the council has available. And just hopefully, be useful for the amazing housing officers that are already working on this. Looking ahead, just to give you some context of who you can talk to at the council if you've got any specific questions. I just want to shout out Hannah Gesson and Alan McGrady and my kind of day-to-days. And obviously you've met myself and Tristan. So just to give you some context after this, if you want context on who to speak to at Maidstone, these are the people that you want to ping an email to. Lovely. So just to break down to you exactly what would happen if you was to make a referral into Beam, you would complete the referral form, which will be on your ReferKent dashboard. I will then pick up that referral and I'll put it through our system, and I'll use your email address so that you'll be able to keep track of and get updates on that referral directed to your email from our Beam system. So in terms of referring, just use the same process that you've always used, and I'll be picking them up on my end, and I can confirm to you when I've received that. And I'll close it for you once you've added your referral to our system. Once that referral is on the system, the service user who's been referred will be allocated a dedicated Beam caseworker. That'll be Tristan, and that will be the beginning of up to four onboarding meetings. It's sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on that person's need and availability. But what we tend to do in those onboarding meetings is always a risk assessment, which just looks into that person's safety and comfortability accessing a service like Beam. It is quite an intensive service, and we want it to be. We want it to feel like a job application process. We want it to feel like we're kind of really helping them towards something in the future. So it does tend to be like a 12-week once somebody has joined Beam to look for a new job or a new home. So the thing we really want to do is make sure that person is ready and safe and happy to access the service. So we will look at things like debt, mental health and physical health and well-being, and we just asked them, now you know the service in detail, is this definitely something that you want to do? It's very much a two-way street at Beam, and we're never in the business of forcing anybody to access the service, so we do spend a lot of time with them just making sure that we're the right fit for them. During that time, we'll also do a very in-depth financial assessment with that individual, and that is where we'll find out exactly what sort of property they might be able to achieve if they're looking for that new home. We can do everything. We break down things from like Netflix subscriptions to how much they're spending on pet food, just to give them a really good idea about what their affordability actually looks like. And if somebody needs things setting up, like benefits, we can help with that too. Lots of people have cited back to us that this is often their very first opportunity to have that financial support. For example, some people have never been banking before they've spoken to Beam, and we can help them with setting up a bank account, even just to finding important documents and putting them all in one place. That's something that we can offer either before somebody has started to like crowdfund, move or start that new job. Especially I found if people are coming from a domestic situation, having a third party they can talk to about their finances can sometimes be incredibly empowering and can be that step they need to start looking at what's next for them. So onboarding, whilst it sounds a little bit dry, is actually a really important part of the service that we offer. Once onboarding is completed and we're confident that that person is fit, safe and ready to join Beam, they'll be signed off and they'll be officially called a Beam joiner. And that is when we can start to write their campaign page, get it up and running on our website, and communities can start to donate. As I've mentioned before, the donations piece is more of a recoup of costs. So we would have already given that person access to the funds that they require. So they don't have to wait for months and months for their campaign to raise. If, for example, if somebody needs an emergency release of a deposit to secure a property and we know it's safe, we can do that on the same day. We'll then crowdfund to make that money back to support somebody else. So they're not having to wait for ages and ages. But what they do get is every single time somebody donates to their account, they'll get a message saying that somebody has donated to them, and every donation will come alongside a message of support as well. And I think this is the bit that really makes Beam stand out from other services, and what we hear from our service users is something that is incredibly important are those messages of support. I know it's probably a little small on your screen, but I've just done a bit of a screen grab there from an example of somebody that we've supported recently. Messages like many congratulations, well done, this is so good to see, a positive attitude so important, keep it going, really happy for you, more power to your bricklaying elbow. This build up of a sense of community is so important, alongside just the money that's being raised, and yeah, it's a really key part of what we do. So once we've removed those financial barriers, we provided somebody with all the tools they need to start job hunting, for example, travel costs to get to interviews, toolkits if required. We can be quite bespoke on the job hunting side to what that person requires. We can obviously help them with their job hunt and get that accelerated nice and quickly. We'll help with those softer skills like interview prep, application techniques, how to navigate the crazy world of job sites, which we all know can be very, very complex at times, and just making sure that they feel ready to re-enter the workplace, especially if they've had a few years out of work, and obviously just closing that job. And then in terms of what jobs we can help with, we can be pretty flexible. So the only thing we do ask is that there are 3 key areas where somebody would want to look for work. So when somebody speaks to Tristan about their potential job aspirations, we just ask them to be like a little bit open-minded. We obviously have many instances we've supported somebody into their dream career. I was speaking to somebody the other day who's looking for work in a music studio. We can be a lot more flexible if that person has the skill set, but for the most part, we know we can be most effective in helping people into work in these 3 key areas. So if they want to start work quickly, we've got loads of links with hospitality, warehouse, retail, driving opportunities. If somebody needs flexible hours, maybe they're a parent, we'll help them look at carer roles, cleaner roles. We have a lot of support workers through Beam. And if they require a qualification, we can actually also help fund some training for construction or security as well. So if somebody needs that extra step before they can start looking at work, we can help there too. And yeah, we do ask that every referral is open to these options, because it's a first step, right? It doesn't have to be their forever role. But if they come to us, they've only been out of work for a little bit, they've got a fantastic CV, they're motivated, they know what they want to look for, we'll of course tailor how we're looking for work to fit their needs a little bit closer. And then finally, landlords will house. So often somebody comes to Beam and they first of all need that job hunt support, so that they can unlock affordability to move into the private rented sector. So if we've helped somebody to start work, we'll keep in touch with them, get those 3 months of pay slips that landlords require to see, and then we'll help them on that housing search using the information we've got from their financial assessment, having a look at exactly what it is they can afford, and yeah, we'll encourage them to find their own bookings and viewings, and then we'll speak to them after the viewings, and if it seems like a good match, that's when we start doing things like compliance checks, speaking to the landlord and writing the applications. One thing I really want to labour on this point is it's a common misconception that Beam has like a list of properties available. We don't work quite like that. We're much more about empowering people to look for the new homes themselves, so that in 12 months' time, if they have to move again, they know exactly how to go about that process. So we don't unfortunately have a list of kind of available properties, but we will help that person to understand what a good property looks like, how to search for properties, keeping them motivated to attend viewings, and of course, if something crosses crosses our path from one of our like estate agent partners, which looks like it could be a good fit for them, we'll let them know immediately. So it's a bit of it's a partnership. It's working together to find the right solution. And yeah, once we have found somewhere that really works for that person, we'll do all the health and safety checks on the property: gas, electricity, carbon monoxide. Is the landlord a good person? We'll do some vetting checks. We'll just make sure that person's going to be happy and safe there before we ever arrange for the release of funds to get that person moved in. Compliance checking is a really important part of what we do. Amazing. So that is a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the full process, but it's put together really nicely in this case study for Louis. Louis was referred by Islington. He worked with Simon, and we helped him to raise just over £1,000 from 40 different supporters, and he moved into his new home in November. I often use Louis' story because before he came to Beam, he was sleeping in his car, and that's a really common result of people coming out of prison and not knowing where to turn. There's very little follow-on support for prison leavers, and yeah, Louis just is always a story that I've remembered, because actually before he went into prison, he was a broker. So he was doing really well for himself. He was moving towards having his own business. And so when he came to Beam, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. What I'll quickly do is just show you an example of his crowdfunding page so that you get to see what one actually looks like, just to bring some context. Lovely. So actually his went up to just over £4,000 in the end, which is fantastic. But Louis was essentially, yes, coming to us to help find a home. So every campaign page will have a story. There's always the right to anonymize this picture. Related background.
Sorry, Kat, I think you just froze there. I didn't hear you there.
Oh no, am I back?
Yes, you're back now.
Woo. Yeah, this is Louis' campaign page. I'm not sure how far I got down to, but basically you always have the right to anonymize your picture if you have come from a background where showing your photo would not be safe, such as gang related violence, anything to do with a domestic background. We can definitely use an alternative photo. And everybody has the right to change their name as well. That's completely up to the individual. So Louis has shared his story. Everybody writes their own story for the campaign. We will let them write this themselves. There is absolutely no pressure from Beam's side as to how much or how little somebody needs to share. We will simply make sure that it's safe, that there's no references to somebody's location, and we'll help them with the writing practice itself, but we won't ever force somebody to overshare if they're not comfortable to. I won't read out all of the words that Louis put here. I'll let you read for yourself, but I do love his middle paragraph. So knowing that there are people out there with beautiful hearts who are willing to help me achieve my dreams and goals is amazing. I now have this incredible opportunity to continue progressing with my life and become more confident. The feeling is incredible. I'm very grateful to everyone that's helping me. I know I'll be extremely happy when I finally move into my new flat and enjoy some quality time for myself. To feel warm, especially in the winter, will be wonderful, and I can't wait for my loved ones to come and visit. And it's just such a heartwarming thing to read, especially because you know, someone like Louis hasn't always had the chance to like share his story. So this campaign page is, as I say, is a really important part of what we do. And in terms of confidence building, it's a great tool because Louis can leave campaign updates. So he can share with his supporters how he's getting on. He can say thank you and update everybody and get those messages of support back as well. So he's been really good at keeping people up to date and saying thanks, which is lovely to see. And then with the supporters, as I mentioned, you can see all the people who've directly donated to his campaign alongside those messages of support. So Nelly has said, like, you're on the path of a beaming future. Good pun there from Nelly. Good luck with the training. Best of luck in your journey. I'm rooting for you. So yeah, lots and lots of messages and people saying, which is a really lovely way for the people that we're supporting to have that place in their own journey. And especially when we're working with, for example, some refugee groups who are really uncomfortable with the idea of crowdfunding, when they find out that they can actually directly thank the people who have helped them, that's a bit of a game changer to them accessing this support, because it really is empowering. On every single campaign, you can see the budget breakdown. So you can see for Louis, we raised first month's rent, housing deposit, household essentials, moving van. This is a pretty standard budget breakdown for anyone we're helping move home. But if you would like to see examples of more campaigns, more specific campaigns when it comes to like jobs budgets, because they can be a bit more bespoke, if you just head to the website and have a look at live campaigns, you can have an explore, maybe even have a practice supporting somebody if you fancy it, just to see what the journey looks like. Even if you just leave a message, it's a really nice thing to do. Lovely. So if we have a look at the Maidstone project so far, we've had 92 referrals that have been received, and 50 of those individuals have completed sign-up forms. 6 people have joined Beam, which means that they've completed that onboarding process that we've gone through. And 12 more people are booked to have an upcoming assessment with Tristan. So we're hoping to really boost that number of joiners very, very soon. We've been really grateful to receive referrals from Maidstone Council, Homeless Care, Citizen Advice Maidstone, Golding Homes, Pathways, Riverside Homes. If you're on the call today, thank you so much. And yeah, I just put these lists on here to give you a taster of the kind of organisations that have been referring in. There might be some of you who are thinking like, is this a service for me? Hopefully seeing the diversity of that list shows you that really anybody that's working with vulnerable families facing homelessness or experiencing homelessness can absolutely use the service. I've also chosen 2 stories from you, standout stories from Maidstone itself. So these are the 2 individuals that we've helped into work so far. With Jacob, it was a really special thing for me because I was actually in bus driver. I won't like
frozen again, apologies. Like we just missed that last sentence.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening.
No, you're all right.
As long as I'm back and haven't got an embarrassing frozen face. Yeah. So Jacob was somebody that I heard he'd got his job offer when I was in Maidstone Council. And yeah, I won't like overshow on his story, but he was somebody that everybody was really invested in him finding work. I know that he'd been going into the council regularly, using the computer to apply for jobs. And so everyone was really, really rooting for him. So it was a really special day to be there and see everybody's reaction when we found out that he had work. And we actually helped him to become a bus driver, which is something that he'd listed as a potential role for him. He wants to get back into music making, photography, more creative fields, but he's now trained and is working as a bus driver, which is a really stable job. So that was a fantastic outcome for us and for Maidstone and for Jacob too. And then Ben is another person we helped into work. So he came to Beam after he'd left the army, and he found adjusting to civilian life to have been quite difficult, and it was taking him a real beat to kind of get back out there and find work again, so that he could begin supporting his family again. And he came to us pretty open-minded about what sort of roles he wanted to do, but he's super physically fit and really wants to do something that focused on kind of being out there and grafting hard. So construction felt like a really good fit. And actually with Ben, we didn't have to provide too much support financially. We just helped with a bike and work clothes and a toolkit. And it just goes to show that sometimes it's these few items that can be the difference between somebody not being able to access work and having those doors open, just being able to get somewhere and having the tools to hand. So it was a really, really positive outcome. So hopefully that has kind of shown you what we do, how we work, and you may even have some people in mind already who might be a good fit for the service. Referring should take 2 minutes. You'll find us on ReferKent now. Once you've completed that referral, I will get a notification and I will add that person to the Beam system, which you can see a little screen grab of just here. I'm going to use your email address, just so you know, just if you get alarmed, if you start getting any updates from us, that's purely because I will have done them on your behalf. And so from those emails, you'll get things like how your person is getting on, have they attended their meetings, do we need any extra information from them or from you? And most importantly, you'll be the first to hear if they achieve an outcome as well. So if they get a new job or a new home, you'll be kept fully in the loop. And it also gives you access to your Beam referral portal. So any referrals that you make will show up on your referral portal. So they're there for you to keep an eye on. I don't know why I've got my slides the wrong way around, but this is where the portal lives. Super easy to access. So you just want to go to beam.org, click on login at the top. Put in your email address and it will send you a link, and then everybody that you've referred via ReferKent will show up there for you. You'll see the details of their caseworker. You'll find out what the plan is for them next, what the next steps are. So it's just a really nice way for you to keep on track with their journey. And if you've got any questions or any access issues with that dashboard, just feel free to drop me an email. We can have a look at it together. When we think about referrals, as I say, we're really quite open. Maidstone have been fantastic about being kind of open-minded to sort of people that can access this service and where those referrals can come from. The focus is really on helping as many people as possible. But that being said, it is really important that the referrals we're receiving are eligible for Beam. 56% of people who were referred to Beam have had to be closed because we've either never heard from them or they've disengaged, and 25% were not eligible for the service. And what that means for that person is we have to reach out and say that we're not going to work with you at this time, but come back to us if anything changes in your circumstances. And a closed referral is never closed forever. If somebody decides they do want to access the service or their circumstances do change, we'll of course pick them back up. But it is really important that they kind of feel these kind of areas, I guess. So the first one is just being engaged. So having spoke to that person about Beam, have they kind of expressed to you that they are ready and willing to start work or to start renting their own home? Are they kind of responsive to you? Like, are they engaging with your service? Do we think they're actually definitely going to sign up to Beam? Are they going to be somebody who's going to continue accessing the service for the full process? Being a bit more kind of like admin, I guess, they do have to be at least 18 and they do have the right to work or the right to rent as well. And they have to be able to communicate independently in English. There is some, we're not asking for somebody to have perfect English here by no means, but essentially it's all about making sure that person is set up for success. And if somebody can't speak any English at all, it's going to be really hard for them in 12 weeks to get ready to go to job interviews. So having that basic level is something that's really important. And then finally, safe, and this is a really important one because it's for the benefit and the safety of the services being referred. Unfortunately, we can't work with anybody who's got current active issues with drugs or alcohol. If they've got anything going on with their health that's unmanaged, and that's really important, of course we'll work with people who've got additional mental health needs, additional physical health needs. If they've got a plan in place, that's absolutely fine. But if somebody comes to us and says that at the moment they're having a really, really tough time, and they've got a few steps to take first to get into a more stable position, we'll probably say go and do this and then come back to us later. And then no recent severe violent or sexual offences, unfortunately, as well. We will take this on a case-by-case basis. It's a little bit of a grey area because obviously circumstances will always differ with this, but if you make that referral, I would really recommend maybe checking in with myself first of all, just to see if that person can definitely be supported. The one that's not on here but probably should be as well is debt. If somebody comes to us with significant unmanaged debt, we'll first refer them to Step Change or another debt organisation. And actually now we've got access to ReferKent, we can refer them to one of you guys. Probably if there's anyone on the call that can support with that, and same as well actually with the drugs and alcohol, mental, physical health. Tristan and I are now set up on ReferKent, so we can send the referral back on to another service that's kind of better placed to help there too. So that's something that's really exciting to us, is being able to directly make that referral on. Lovely. So we've looked at the dashboard. Amazing. So you've checked your referral is eligible. You've made the referral through ReferKent. I've picked it up. I've put it on the system. You will now be kept up to date on your referrals every step of the way. So you've got your dashboard. You get those email updates I've mentioned. You get the weekly newsletters as well from us, which will give you some updates on Beam. And we'll give you a nudge if we've not heard from your referral. We might ask you to support us a little bit in getting them to re-engage. But for the most part, we'll look after that ourselves. We just want to keep you up to date. And as I said, we have lots of spaces still to fill in Maidstone. Every referral that you make really, really helps. We just want to support as many people as possible. So yeah, just anyone that you refer will make a huge, huge difference. So please do so. We really appreciate it. Amazing. So that is the content of the presentation today. A bit of a whistle-stop tour, but hopefully covers everything quite nicely for you. We've got plenty of time for questions, so I'd love to take them if you've got them. Yeah, feel free to kind of just shout out or hands up. Yeah, really happy to help.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you saw it, but you did get a little bit of an applause there.
Oh,
And I feel like you do deserve it. So thank you very much. It was really amazing presentation. We have got a couple of questions in the chat, and I know we have some hands up. I'll just go through the chat first. I think Rose, you've got your hand up, and I think it's going to be to the question you've written down. Is it? I feel they've asked if Beam's only for Maidstone residents. I feel like you've answered somewhat in the presentation, but I thought I'd just let you go on a bit more.
You know what, as I was finishing up on eligibility, I realised I probably could have made this clearer for sure. At the moment, it's just for Maidstone residents. However, we are also working in Swale, we're in Thurrock, we're in Ashford, so we're growing, and Tunbridge Wells as well. So we are improving our coverage, and I know that conversations are being added to ReferKent are starting with those councils too. So I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed that more people can be supported soon. But it's a really good question.
Right, so
Rose, did you
Tunbridge
want to come in
Wells-
anymore?
Yeah, so Tunbridge
No
Wells isn't at the moment, but it's kind of being lined up. Is that correct? From what you're saying?
Yeah, we're having those conversations with the council.
Okay.
Yeah. Some councils are very open to other organisations referring. Maidstone's been really open to that. Other councils prefer people to come through the duty desk first of all. So it just depends on the council.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kat, can I add something to that super quickly? I think we do work with Tunbridge Wells, just not through with ReferKent. I think that's also pretty important. So you can absolutely refer separately to ReferKent. It's just through the platform. We're only working like specifically with Maidstone.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that, Tristan. I think our next question is from Shirley asking if Beam actually stands for anything. I'm not sure if it does.
It actually does. It's a little bit.
It does.
It's I don't know why I find this bit quite cringy, but it stands for Be Amazing, which is actually really nice. It's
really
just when I
sweet.
say it, it sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like a little bit like, but it genuinely does stand for Be Amazing. Yeah, and that's where it came from. So we shortened it down to Beam, which is actually really lovely, I think, as well, because it's you know, the purpose of Beam is about like kind of shining a light on like the inequalities that are there, helping people, guiding them, and then also just helping them to be amazing. So it does make it's a lovely thing.
It is lovely. And I'm not sure if you saw the screen, but you did get a couple of little heart emojis in
that's
response.
really nice. Thank you. That does make me really happy.
It is sweet. I think the next question is also from Shirley, just asking if the crowd funds go directly to, apologies, I don't know what the LL stands for, but just asking if it goes directly to the LL. If you want to clarify a bit more, Shirley, that's fine.
Would that be the landlord, Shirley?
Landlord. She did say landlord.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Yes, so we'll never send money directly to somebody who's been referred to the service, purely for their own safety. If someone's living in TA and we send them like a big wad of cash, that just puts them in a really vulnerable position. So we do things like always directly paying the landlord if it's deposit and first month's rent. On the job side, if we're sending somebody a laptop, we'll send it to a safe location. If we're helping with things like clothing, travel costs, it will always be in the form of a voucher or maybe an Oyster top-up card. So we will never directly transfer cash to anybody, but that's a really good question. We'll do all of the conversations with the landlord as well about where to expect that money and when. So yeah, we'll look after that part of the journey for sure.
Brilliant. Next question is from Sarah, who's asking if there's a maximum age limit. I know there's a minimum one, which is same for ReferKent, 18. They have to be an adult, but I wasn't sure if there's a maximum one.
There's not a maximum age limit at all, I think. I mean, we've had older referrals for sure. We're very comfortable working with people who are 50s, 60s, 70s for sure. I think the only thing I would say is in terms of eligibility, it becomes a little bit harder if somebody's maybe in their like late 70s, 80s, because privately too.
I think we might have just lost you on that last section there. That might just be me.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, you're fine. It was we got up to the point of eligibility and then
yeah, for eligibility becomes a little bit difficult if somebody, for example, is like on the older side of the scale and maybe has additional support needs. So maybe moving into private rented property might not be the safest option for them if they're going to be living by themselves, for example. So it becomes a little bit harder for us to support those individuals, but there's certainly not a cap. It's just more about that individual's needs and whether or not Beam is the best service for them.
Perfect. So another question we've received is if asking is ReferKent's the only way to refer to Beam. I think Tristan's answered that, but for I think specifically the Maidstone section, it is through ReferKent. Obviously you can do separately. I think Tristan said that you can do through other councils, other avenues as well. But for what we're working with them, we are working with them through ReferKent, and that's how you would, as Kat explained, you'd make the referral, find them on there, and you click make referral and fill that in, and she'll contact you guys. Another question is, how do you deal with those who are evicted for arrears previously?
So we can help people for sure who've had previous rent arrears, but I think it depends on like if they've carried debt with them. I don't know, Tristan, actually, have you got any insight into that one?
Yeah, I guess it's very similar to any other kind of like long-term issues. I guess the main thing for us is like, is it managed? Is it something that they're aware of, that they're doing something about, things like that? If they, and it's very like contextualized in that if you were going to go and rent a private property, like how is a landlord then going to look at it? Is it going to be something you could explain or give context around or things like that? Or is it going to be a risk for then like a landlord to kind of rent to someone? So we do work with people who've had arrears, been evicted, all these kind of things in the past. But if they're like don't have a payment plan for like some kind of debt, or if they are just like not paying anything back, like we'd usually then signpost onto like more experts when it comes to debt advice, and things like that. But then once they've got that in place, they can always come back and we'll support them then.
Brilliant. Apologies, Winifred, I realised you had your hand up. Did you answer a question that you asked, or?
No, I was just wondering if they're ever going to come to Gravesend.
Well, hopefully. I mean, we would really love to. If there's demand there, Winifred, please tell me, because we can definitely use that to talk to the council. I mean, Beam's main aim is, what we really, really want is for Beam to never be a lottery. And at the moment we're a lottery, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Like, we want to get to the point where every single person in the country can access this service, and it doesn't matter what borough or council area they're living in. So we want to be everywhere as soon as we can. And yeah, that's the focus. So I would hope that one day we're all across Kent, and that is what the sales team are currently working very, very hard on. So fingers crossed for the future.
I think that very nicely answers Dawn's question about if she can make a referral from Gravesham Borough Council as well. So hopefully in the future. I think next question is if you can explain how the safeguarding would apply if someone is referred to Beam, as some people don't have access to funds or doctors, so they don't have a referral point.
Cool. Yeah, maybe I can chip in here, Kat. So basically, it's very similar to what Kat mentioned and what I mentioned just here is, on one side, if someone needs a doctor, like we're not doctors, right? And they should always try to get that kind of support, I guess, elsewhere, whether registering with a GP. And that's often, I think, steps someone should go through before coming through to our service, because a key bit is like ready to move into a job, ready to move into home. And if someone has those kind of unmanaged kind of needs, it's probably better for them to get that support first. When it comes to access to funding, obviously a lot of the things Kat touched on, but it's very much like when it comes to helping someone start a job, I recognize, I mean, myself, I experienced homelessness throughout my early 20s, and I know that kind of barrier to starting a job before you get paid, after your universal credit has stopped, is very much a kind of gray area where you don't get much support. So it's about us helping a person over that initial step, and then also the same with housing, where we're helping them over that initial step. And I think really importantly, when it comes to things like a deposit or rent in advance, like we're not then asking people to pay it back later or anything like that. Like our folks actually like then keep the deposit if they then wanted to move on to into a future property as well later too. So it's very much like that initial kind of like motivation, that initial kind of jump, just giving them a little bit of support with that.
Winifred, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is my last one.
No worries, feel free. I'm glad there's so many questions. I'm happy.
I work with CGL, and we help those who are going through alcohol and drug issues. Would you work with someone who is getting help by us?
So it would depend how long along that journey they are. We can be, similarly to how Kat mentioned, we can be flexible because we know these kind of things are nuanced, complicated, things like that. We would never be a blanket, okay, this person fits this bucket, we're not going to work with them. I think it's more about the individual's motivation. I think really importantly, when we're talking about drugs and alcohol, like thinking about realistically going for a job interview, going to work, like we'd want ideally someone to be clean of like the two. We can be a little bit more flexible with like, if depending on someone's like mindset around it and their approach and things like that. But I think really importantly, it's really contextualizing, is this person ready to start a job? Would this person be able to like house hunt and move into a place independently?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, Winifred, as well, we have, I'm sure you probably are aware, we have got CGL also on ReferKent, a branch of CGL on the system as well. So if that was something you wanted to look into, we have got you guys on board. One thing that isn't a question, we have got a comment in the chat as well. Just to let you know, I think Valerie's on the screen as well, just saying that she's a volunteer coordinator for Satida, and they would like to work, they have got some ideas of working with you guys. So
oh, amazing. I've just seen that now. Oh, lovely, in Swale. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, just thought I'd pop that message along. So
that's great. Thank you so much.
Sorry, is it Seamus? I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm not sure. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. Oh, you can't hear you very well. Is that? If you want to pop it in the chat, that might be a bit easier because I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, it looks like you might be on mute.
I think even when he took himself off, I don't think if it was working on general.
Strange. Yeah, feel free to pop your question in the chat. I can answer it.
Oh, it's here. Oh no, that was already the one you asked a question. What we'll do is wait for, if there's any other questions, feel free to anyone else put their hand up or any other comments. I would say that I've been working or in conversation with Kat for a while, and it's just really interesting to like finally be working with you guys, have you guys do the presentation, and it's a really great service.
Oh, thank you.
No problem at all.
Yeah, we're really, really happy to be involved, and it's amazing, as I've kind of touched upon this, but it's absolutely amazing for us to have a service where we can signpost people to as well, because we've talked a lot about BEAM eligibility. We know we're not experts in every area, and there are going to be some people who are just not best placed to help. So having the ability to now say, like, I'm going to actively do something to help you access another service is so much nicer for us. Like, we always send the links, we always do the right, we never just send someone off without support, but being able to make that referral is new for us, so that's really, really awesome.
Thank you. You touched on a really great point as well, that we try and make sure that because the whole point of the service is to make sure no one slips through the cracks, which I feel like a lot of everyone on the call is trying to make sure that we support everybody. The point about ReferKent is that you don't want to really decline anybody. If you aren't able to support them, you would forward them on to someone else that can be a more appropriate support, and you can make that referral. So that is one of the key things that we try and promote as well. So we have got 2 questions come in. The question that you wanted to ask, I feel you just typed in saying they've got people in Glasgow who've got links with the area, but have been in Glasgow for a while. Can they refer them to you if they wish to return down south?
Yeah, so sorry, just to make sure I've understood this properly. There's people who might move down to Maidstone at some point, or to the south. So. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, we've got quite a long time left on the contract. Actually, we're in conversations about the exact length, so I won't say anything just now. But if somebody was to move down in the next few months, like, we should definitely be able to support them. And then, actually, speaking of Glasgow, I was in Glasgow, just outside of Glasgow. A couple of months ago, we've just launched a project just outside of Glasgow in the kind of more rural areas, like around Alexandra. So it might be worth, if you've got contacts, letting them know that BEAM is there. But we're in like 1 or 2 places, so we're not actually in central Glasgow just yet. But I don't know if that's helpful for you. Might just be worth having a little look at where the BEAM services are.
Of course. We've got one more question just saying, do the clients have to come through an agency or local authority referral only?
So I guess is that like if you were like just an independent person and you've met somebody who you think would be good to refer to the service? If that possibly not. So it probably does have to be charity, or yeah, like for example, Citizens Advice Bureau, not necessarily charity, housing associations, any kind of structured organisation that's working with vulnerable people rather than individuals referring. That's actually a really important point. Just because of how our processes and systems work, it needs to, and also from what Maidstone Council probably want to see, like it's got to be local organisations, unfortunately, and local authorities too.
Same with ReferKent. If you wanted to make a referral through ReferKent, you've got to be a professional who's making that referral. Like, you've got to be working with them. And if you wanted to say, you know, they need that extra level of support that we can't provide, you would then refer them over to Beam or anyone that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, the question before from Glasgow is a little bit clarified. They've just explained that if they lived in Maidstone and they want to come back, or lived in the area and want to come back, would that be something that you can support with?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as the local authority is known, as long as they're known to the local authority, that should be absolutely fine. Yeah, for sure. If they've moved back into it, but that I would say that they still have to be experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. So if they've come back and they're still in temporary accommodation, for example, or they're sofa surfing on return, then yes. If they've come back and they're actually quite settled now, they possibly might not be the right fit for the service.
Yeah, and I think it will also depend on where the referral's coming from, like organizational wise. So for example, if referrals coming from an organization in a part of Glasgow that maybe we don't work with, that could be a slightly tricky thing to like figure out. But if a referral's coming from a Maidstone, like if it's someone that Maidstone, the borough are kind of supporting, like we can absolutely look at that side of things.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We also have a question from Zoe.
Yes, morning. I work on the front door of social services, so I am the first person that somebody will talk to. So would I be able to refer them at the front door if I'm not doing any other further referrals through social services?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're speaking,
if it's identified at the very first, because that's what we do. We have to identify what the needs are and see whether we go via the council or to other organisations. So if somebody does phone up and they are seeking work, they are facing homelessness, we can refer, even if we're not going to be, because we don't hold any cases. We just do that. That's okay to do.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah, of course. If you're speaking to somebody and they're eligible, they're at risk or experiencing homelessness, and they're living in Maidstone, and you're happy to receive the updates on how they're doing, even if you don't hold the case, yeah, that's absolutely fine to do, for sure.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think if there's no more questions, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of the quick update just before we leave about ReferKent, just so we can give you guys a bit of an update. Just to give you guys a little bit of good news, we have now reached over 100 organisations, Beam being one of our latest, and we have also reached over 1,000 referrals. So that's over 1,000 people that we've been able to support, get that extra support that they need, which is great news to see. Before we go, thank you very much. I just wanted to quickly share my screen and just show you the kind of range of organisations we have on board. So let me just make sure that's going to be showing correctly. Obviously, a few of you on the call are going to be part of this, so just let me know if, obviously, you'll see yourself. So hopefully you'll be able to just kind of see the other ones that are also on the system. Hopefully you guys can see that all okay. Perfect. So you can see here, this is one slide, but we've got like VRS, who are working with the Vulnerability Registration Service, who did a previous session. We have got Dover District Council, we've got Social Enterprise Kent. We also have, if it will let me go to the next slide. There we go. We've got Involve, who are on board, Kent, oh, there we go. Does that work? We've got Kent Savers, Stop Lane Sharks. We've got Age Well West Kent, Dads Unlimited, who offer support. We also have Break Even, Mind West Kent, Connecting Canterbury. Like you say, like you can see, we've got the range of organisations all across the county, and we are on the road to getting more and more on board as well. So if you guys do feel that there is an organisation on there you do want to refer to, or that you want to join ReferKent, want more information, please feel free to reach out to us at referkent@kent.gov.uk. I'll pop the email in the chat as well. And I will, if you guys do want to have a separate meeting, we can always have that meeting as well. But what I'll do is, as it just coming before 12, I'll end the call here. Thank you all for coming along. Hopefully you find it useful, and we'll be sending out an email just afterwards about any follow-ups for you. But thank you very much for coming along. I hope you all have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you. That was really useful.
Thank you
Thanks
so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank